What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome back to the Sooner Surge as the Sooners are getting ready to take on the Kansas Jayhawks, 11 a.m. kick, Lawrence, Kansas on Fox. Uh, as we get ready for that game, we have a special guest here, former punter for the Kansas Jayhawks, Cole Moos, joining us. Appreciate you being on here, Cole.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm a big fan of the show, so it's an honor to be on.
Yeah, before we start asking some questions, maybe just about, I know special teams is going to probably play a big role, especially with the weather maybe that they're looking at in Lawrence. But before we do that, got to ask you about 2017 because that was the year of the no handshake and the Baker Mayfield incident, I believe. Is there any backstory to that, or is there any insight you can give us to like, man, what was going on as far as what was Kansas thinking when Baker did that or anything?
I was wondering if somebody was going to ask about this. I didn't expect it first question, I'll say that. Anyways, that night was actually my senior night. So the whole family was there. We're on the field before the game, all that stuff. We have no idea. I don't think anyone on the team, except for the guys that did that, knew that they weren't going to shake his hands. And I mean, as soon as we saw that on the sideline, I was thinking, what are you doing? Why would you do that? It's just like that's a mistake instantly. But I think they did it to try to fire us up and not really realizing the magnitude maybe of how that was going to look and maybe like what was going to come from that. And it did get us fired up, for whatever that was worth. I think we only won one or two games that year. So
Yeah.
it was our last game of the season, and we were just, I don't know, a weird stunt to get the team going.
Yeah, Cole, I know you're tied for, I think, second that year was at 2017 with like 83 punts. So obviously tied for second as far as single season record at KU. So you were on the field a lot, which I guess isn't always a great thing, but you had a phenomenal 2 years there at Kansas. Kind of take us through the mindset of really just kind of the special teams unit, punting, and just is there anything that goes through your mind, pregame and all that, getting ready for, especially you knowing that you're going to probably be on the field a whole lot versus maybe, OU hasn't punted a lot. So just kind of take us through that mindset.
Yeah, sure. Really, I think with all the special teams guys, specifically the specialists, snappers, punters, kickers, holders, all that stuff, the thing that is always preached is just do your job. So it's really just an extreme focus on doing your job. When it comes to those positions, you are doing the same skill over and over and over, hundreds of times of practice throughout the week. So when it comes to the game, it's really nothing different. I mean, whenever your number gets called, you go out there. It honestly feels just like practice, the calls that go through, everything like that. And all you're thinking about is, okay, just do my job. And our special teams coach, his motto was one play and out. So it's like, be ready to go in there, do your job for one play, and then get back out. Nothing crazy. No one should know your name. Usually, if they know your name, that means you messed up. So it's kind of just like a worker blue collar mentality. That's what we would take. I mean, going into the game, I will say there was never a game where we didn't think we were going to, or that we thought we would lose. I mean, every game, our coach was a great motivator. It didn't matter what our record was, what the other team's record was, if they had Baker Mayfield on the other side. We thought somehow we were going to win. And so, there was never a time of like, oh man, I'm going to have to punt 10 times today or nothing like that. It was a lot of confidence, and just like the rest of the team, man, we were fired up before the game. We're yelling and getting pumped up. That's how we roll at Kansas, at least.
Hey, Cole. What about the relationship between a punter and the field goal kicker? I mean, right now OU's field goal kicker Schmidt's struggling a little bit, and I know a lot of people say, well, they leave the kicker alone, let him kind of focus. What about with the relationship with the punter and the field goal kicker? Did y'all talk a lot about if they were struggling? Were you kind of that encourager? How does that relationship play out?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in my case, our field goal kicker, he was my best friend, and we actually played in junior college together at NEO. And so we had a history together. And man, anytime he was struggling, um, I was pretty much like the one guy that I would say would talk to him. As a rule, you want to leave them alone. You want to let them work through it in their head. And it's more of a mental battle than anything else. And so, our conversations would be short. It's just like, hey, a little bit of encouragement here and there. you know what you can do, you know, put it behind you, you know, that type of thing. But a lot of times, like they got to do it themselves. You know, it's like you kind of leave them alone, let them focus. You don't want to be that guy that's just over there. Man, it's okay, buddy. You're all
Yeah.
right. You know, you'll do better next time. It's like, you know, they're an athlete. They're a Division I football player, just like anyone else. They don't need babied. So they know the pressure that comes with that role.
Yeah, a lot of Sooner fans, Cole, are very familiar with Michael Turk. There's been a few OU punters that have been very popular. Turk was one of them. He had the YouTube channel Hang Time. On the channel, he showed kind of his night before routine as a punter. He would spend hours just working on drops. Did you have any sort of a routine like that going into a game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, first off, I'm a huge fan of Turk. He's an awesome guy, man. His channel is really cool. He's a big follower of Christ, and he's a Christian, as am I. And so I'm a huge fan of him. Tress Way, he's another OU guy that I look up to a lot. But yes, as far as the routine, you know, drops are huge. Like I said, you're doing the same skill over and over and over, little to no variation. And so it's really just muscle memory. I mean, I was more of the guy that once we got to like Friday night, Saturday, the hay was in the barn. You know, I was having fun. I was enjoying the moment. I was confident in the training I had put in. I'm not a big, like got to wear the same type of socks or got to have my shoes tied the same way. You know, I don't get into all that stuff. Every game's different. And I treated them all like that, you know, just trust the game plan, trust my training, and just try to get my mind right, really.
Yeah, Cole. So transitioning into the game, maybe are you going to the game, and what kind of environment do you expect the Kansas fans to bring hosting a top 10 Oklahoma team?
Yeah, I'm for sure going to the game. Me and my wife, we're taking our 6-week-old baby. We're not missing it, man. It's homecoming for us. So all the KU former football players always come back. The fans show up really good for homecoming. I saw the game sold out today, so I think it's going to be an awesome crowd, man. I mean, I went to 3 or 4 games last year, and just kind of after the turnaround, you know, the fans started showing up. Leipold's doing a great job, you know, of the interaction with the fans and the crowd and stuff like that. And man, I mean, last season being at the games, it was rocking like I've never seen it when I was there playing. I mean, it's a different atmosphere than it was even 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So I think it's going to be awesome, man. I mean, the cold weather is going to be interesting to see, but those guys in Kansas, you know, they're basketball fans. They camp out all night before the basketball games, rain, snow, shine. It doesn't matter. I think the fans would be rocking.
Yeah, and they got big noon kickoff. And last year, were you at the game? They had college game day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere.
yeah, it was
Cool.
incredible, man.
You mentioned the basketball program there, so I mean, look, you're there for 2 years. Is that something that, as a football program, that is? I'm sure it's not talked about within the football program, but there's this idea, you know, of changing the culture. And you mentioned Leipold's done a great job. I know even when you were there, it's kind of the start of transitioning the football program and building the culture. But is there anything that stands out that Leipold's done, or maybe just take us through the Kansas culture on the football side? Because everyone knows about Rock Chalk Jayhawk and Allen Fieldhouse, but a lot of people don't know really about Kansas football outside of a few years. So maybe talk about the culture, maybe when you were there, and anything you've heard now from it.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's interesting. You know, I grew up an OU fan, so I can definitely relate to you guys. You know, the tradition, the culture of OU, it's top notch. And before I went to KU as a player, you know, I knew nothing about the program except for that 1 year they had with Todd Reesing. And so, you know, I didn't know anything. So I was coming in as an outsider. And there's a lot of tradition there. They had some teams in the 90s, and the guys that played on those teams, they do a great job of coming back. You know, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, Todd Reesing, a lot of those guys, man, they're around all the time. So all that was really cool when I was there. And there was a huge emphasis on building the culture, because the year I was there was the first season following the 0-12 year. And it was the rebuild from the Charlie Weiss era where the program was kind of left in shambles.
Yeah.
And so the whole emphasis was on rebuilding the culture. They knew it was going to take time. All the players knew it was going to take time. It was really just finding ways to get little victories. And I don't mean just games, but, getting guys that are actually making plays and guys that are, doing things that maybe hadn't been done in a few years, getting guys to work together. And I think what Leipold has done was, he took over after Les Miles, and the program starting to get a little bit of attention and stuff like that. But man, his coaching staff is incredible. I mean, what they've done with the players there, and it's credit to the players too. But Jalen Daniels' first season, I think it took him 8 games to throw a touchdown pass, and a lot of people don't remember that. He was very young. I think he was like 17 years old. But the potential was there and stuff like that. One of the main things that stood out to me about the coaching staff and what he's done is on the offensive side. I mean, the offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, and, he's a guy I didn't know much about at all, but just as far as scheme goes and creativity, I mean, he's done an amazing job. That was during the famine of the 10 or 12 years where Kansas football was really down. It's like we never had an offense. And so just putting a good offense together, it really changes your game.
Yeah. Hey, I know you do strength and conditioning still a little bit, right, with the high school level. Just talk about, I mean, obviously as OU fans, you hear a lot of talk about the strength and conditioning coach that left was Lincoln Riley. He's gone. You got Jerry Schmidt in there now. Just kind of talk to us. And I don't know who Kansas' strength and conditioning coach is, but I think it's made a big positive improvement on their team. So just kind of talk about that in general.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Matt Gildersleeve is the head strength and conditioning coach there now. And I think he's followed Leipold, as of pretty much all of his coaches, place to place with him. But I've never met him personally. He seems like an awesome guy. The stuff I see is mainly from the Kansas football social media. But man, just the positive energy, the work ethic. I mean, it just looks like the guys are in the weight room, absolutely getting after it, having fun, which I think is one of the biggest parts, man, is you got to get the guys to buy in. They're with the strength and conditioning coaches, 8 months out of the year. It's a huge part of what you do, and it's a huge part of setting the culture. And a lot of people don't realize that. The coaches that I'm the closest with when I was playing is the strength and conditioning staff. And I still talk to all those guys today. And a lot of people don't see that about the off season and even in season is how much you're with those guys. I mean, they play a huge role in the team.
Yeah, Cole, you said you're going to the game. For any Sooner fans that'll be traveling, give us a couple of got to go to as far as restaurant locations there in Lawrence.
Yeah, I got some good ones for you. I heard the podcast the other day where you mentioned that. So first off, if you're looking for just the Lawrence hot spots, the famous places, the Burger Stand, that's definitely a must go. But it is one of the busiest places. So be ready to wait in line for at least an hour. If you like Chinese food, this is a personal favorite, is Encore Cafe. It's a little bit less known, but it's there on the Mass Street, which is the main street in town. If you want barbecue, I think Big's Barbecue is the best. They make their own root beer. It's fantastic. And then the hidden gem that almost no one knows about, but they are the best wings that I've ever had, is our bar. You got to check it out. It's not off the main strip. It's a little bit outside of town. It's called Our Bar, and they marinate their wings for 24 hours. They grill them up right in front of you, and they're giant. They're as big as your face, and they are delicious.
Wow.
Yeah, Cole, before we get you off here, can we get your score prediction for the game? Is Rock Chalk Jayhawk going to become bowl eligible this week?
I feel like I have to say that. Let's see. I'm gonna go 35-31. Jayhawks are gonna take it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. The weather, I mean, looking like upper 40s with some rain possibilities, but the rain may hold off until later, at least was the last that I saw. So could very well be a special teams play that could decide this game. And it's been great having a former special teams punter here for the Kansas Jayhawks. Cole, thanks again for joining us. Been privileged to have you on and kind of give us some insight into KU football that a lot of people don't know about. So thanks for taking your time out of your evening here. Appreciate it, Cole.
Thanks, Cole.
I appreciate you guys. Anytime I get to relive those years, man, it was two of the best years of my life. So I'm a Jayhawk for life. I appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, man. Thanks. We'll say Boomer. I'm sure you say Rock Chalk.